Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Tuesday. Or no, I'm sorry, it's Wednesday, February 26th. We're just a couple days away. That means that we're at Hump Day, of course, in the middle of the week. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week thus far. Um, well, of course, going to just give people a chance to come in before we get started. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here that we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let me take care of this real quick. Alrighty then. Anyways, I'm almost done with 1934 in terms of my cartoon watching. Got through about the halfway through the list or so today, so I'll probably try to get through the other half tomorrow. Of course, saw Betty Boop cartoon, Happy Harmonies, you know, couple buddy cartoons from Looney Tunes of Merry Melodies, all that. So we're starting to see, as late 34, early 35, some of the more anthology type series are coming out more in color. Um, like Merry Melodies, Color Classic, Color Rhapsody, Cartoon Closet, all those. Just waiting for more people to come in. Let's see now. So we're at 228 here. So let's see. So as I said, if you can help by liking and sharing the screen, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So now we're coming up on 3 minutes here, so I might as well talk about what's on. So I'm gonna go over a couple articles from Bounding into Comics tonight. One of which is Marvel Comics talking about how they, I guess, spoiled the current Exceptional X-Men arc in the solicits. Look at that, how an executive editor defends the decision to do so. Also, we got an anime-related article as well. That was in the comics, so comics and anime-related article is when I hear from Dragon Ball's boss on what their thought process was behind Daima, Dragon Ball Daima. So that plus, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up. Look back to last night's NXT, and I know I forgot to go over what was going on NXT last night before we signed off, though. But we'll look back to last night's NXT to kind of get caught up on what happened there. Look ahead to tonight's AW Dynamite, as well as, and then of course wrap up the show with the This Day in Each History segment. So now let's see, we're now just over 4 minutes, so we might as well just get started. Let me just do one more thing here before we get started here. One last round here. See if I can't possibly see if there's anybody that we missed earlier. I could possibly reach out to, but it doesn't look like that. Oh, all right. All right. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. All right, so let's get into the first article we're going to look at here. All right, so Marvel Comics exec editor defends decision to spoil current, in smaller quotes, exceptional X-Men arc in solicits. Quote, the reveal is too strongly saleable not to feature in some way on the cover. Article by Spencer McCulley, published February 24th, which was this past Monday. So let's take a look at this then. In a move that suggests a lack of confidence in the series' writing, Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort is standing behind the publisher's decision to completely spoil the current arc of Exceptional X-Men Volume 1 in their latest round of solicits, as he believes that a public divulging of the story's big, in quotes here, reveal will lead to a boost in X book sales. The tricky thing about that is that here's the thing: he might have a point that could spark sales. You know, if it's something that people want, but if it's like something that people don't want and something that people think or people just don't agree with or think is just totally stupid, then it could just completely kill the comic as well. You know, it's like that's the thing about doing such a big reveal like that. You know, it is a huge gamble. It's, you know, on the one hand, yeah, if you win that gamble, then yeah, you might get a few more sales. And considering that Marvel is probably in need of some more sales, you know, they're probably trying to do anything under the sun they can do to pick that up. But on the other hand, sometimes those big reveals can lead to more of a disappointing reaction too. So, let's go ahead and see what more they have to say here before I get on to the next one here to see if anybody. All right, let's see. One of the three core team, in smaller quotes, core team books, spinning out of the X Line's recent From the Ashes relaunch, the Eve Ewing penned. Eve Ewing. I wonder if she's related to Al Ewing. Let's see. Carmen Carnero illustrated Exceptional X-Men centers on the Marvel Universe's resident phaser, Kitty Pryde, as she attempts to establish a smaller quotes normal life for herself, devoid of supervillains and anti-mutant terrorist organizations following the fall of Krakoa. Unfortunately, after just a few weeks on her own, Kitty's plans are thrown for a loop when, in typical, in smaller quotes again, senior mutant tradition, she soon finds herself serving as a mentor to a group of 3 teenage mutants. Trisha Melee Tran, who possesses the ability to turn herself both intangible and invisible. Alejandro Axo Luna, his powers prompting those around him to voluntarily lose themselves to their emotions. And Trista Bronze Marshall, a young woman capable of transforming her body into a bronze-like super strength granting metal, all of whom are struggling to understand their new X gene activations. Let's see. There, of course, Melee. There is. There's been a few mutants with the power of intangibility and invisibility. Axo, sounds like basically a psionic who loses, psionic who can manipulate emotions, and Bronze there, who of course has a power similar to Colossus. So Colossus, of course, turns into steel, where she turns into bronze. Um, Along for the ride is also the former White Queen of the Hellfire Club, Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters headmaster, and Quiet Council member herself, Emma Frost. And though the series covers imply she's a key player in its narrative, she's really relegated to nothing more than a background character who sometimes shows up to offer some combat training to the trio of New Mutants. Kind of like the Black Canary role in the Young Justice cartoon from a few years ago here, from the that started back in '09 and then finished up I think in 2021. Of course, uh, a big gap between seasons 2 and 3, of course, but here's some of the artwork and stuff implied here. Let's see. Admittingly, Exceptional is by far the weakest of the current X books. Its writing riddled. So this is Spencer's. I guess Spencer giving his own perspective on the book. Its writing riddled with plot holes and narrative delivering nothing more than a young adult styled retread of the tired smaller quotes mutants are ostracized unsmaller quote storyline that has served as the de facto X-Men story hook for the last 50 years. But of course, like with almost any piece of entertainment, these problems have not precluded the series from developing a dedicated fan base, almost all of whom were likely invested in the book's newly introduced core conflict. As seen in Exceptional Volume 1, Number 6, after making it past the initial smaller quotes introductions era of their time, together Melee, Axo, and Bronze soon make the acquaintance of one Sheldon Xenos, a completely new character whose new mobile app, Veratis, um, seeks to analyze people's biometric and mental health data in order to guide them to being their quote unquote best self. While the app's personal data requirements immediately draw the suspicions of Melee and Bronze, its promises pique the interest of Axo, who feels that such a tool can in particular be used to help mutants like him, whose powers come with their physical transformations as well as anyone else suffering from genetic issues, to achieve a less stressful and more fulfilling life. Well, in Axo's case, considering that his power is to basically um, manipulate others' emotional states, yes, this app could be a good thing for him. Maybe as a way to focus his power or help him learn to control it too. But so that's possible. Hmm. All right. So, anyways, continue on. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Sheldon Xenos has a very interesting look, doesn't he? Kind of looks like a variation on Goro from Mortal Kombat. There, right? Wait, Axo. I think Axo is the guy in the middle there. The guy who was sounds like he may be in the same vein of Caliban. Boy, see, seeking to learn more about the app, Axo eventually sets up a meeting with Xenos, agreeing to meet up with the tech CEO in a Chicago area park. And much to their surprise, shortly after linking up, a pair are jumped by a pair of muggers. Luckily, thanks to a combination of Axo's own combat prowess and his powers, the muggers almost immediately give up their attack, leaving the young mutant to take the entire event as an example of the personal despair Xenos is seeking to alleviate. However, at the end of the issue, it is ultimately revealed that far from being an actual robbery, the muggers were actually nothing more than paid actors, with their talents having been tapped by Xenos in order to help convince Axo, for as of yet unknown reasons, to come over to his side. Well, I think we can take a guess at why he probably wants Axo in particular. I mean, Axo's powers would probably fit real well with Xenos' goal, whether it's a stage goal or maybe even an underneath goal, because um, well, we're finding out, usually when somebody sets something up like that, it usually tells you right away. You should really be figuring out right away that's a bad guy, because because based on just that information alone, you almost get the impression that maybe the girls were right in being suspicious of him. It was here, with Sheldon's introduction and a vague hint towards his villainy, that the series' plot came to rest with the conclusion of the January 19th issue. But rather than being allowed to settle in the minds of readers, Exceptional's new plot line would be completely spoiled less than 24 hours after its establishment, and not by leakers, but rather by Marvel Comics themselves. Again, a huge gamble here. Again, as we mentioned earlier in the article, a huge gamble here. Um, you know, depending upon how people would feel about what the plot line is, you know, obviously Spencer here has some criticisms about it, about the storyline here. Others may as well. So I guess we'll wait and see how that all plays out as time goes on. In revealing their full solicits for May 2025, the next day, the publisher included a completely unredacted cover and preview of the book's ninth issue, both of which revealed not only was Sheldon Xenos a completely fake identity, but the man behind the horns was none other than classic X-Men villain Mr. Mr. Sinister. Mister, I want to create a master mutant race by messing around with their genetics. I want to evolve mutancy to its height and rule the world with my mutants. Quote, the team figures out the truth about Sheldon Zeno's true identity, unquote, reads the issue's official teaser. Quote, and Emma Frost has to go somewhere she really, really doesn't want to go. Deep inside the mind of one of her worst enemies, Sinister. In parentheses here, notably while the covers and solicits for Exceptional X-Men Volume 1, Number 7, and Volume 1, Number 8, respectively, feature Xenos and a sinister-esque Shadow, and the villain himself holding the titular team hostage. Neither of these previews explicitly confirmed his identity. Their text instead simply hinting that the two may have some sort of working relationship, unparenthesed. Yeah, that kind of reveal right there, that's a huge gamble. My guess is people. I don't know. Considering that I think they've played that out before, that type of reveal. People are going to read that, and I think now I don't know because I haven't read, but as I understand it, I think that's a classic reveal for Marvel too. That's a classic reveal for a lot of comics. So I mean, um, that's something I think might end up being very disappointing for a lot of people. It's like, or oh, not again, kind of thing. That he confused, like many, as to why Marvel Comics would so blatantly and quickly spoil their own story. One reader reached out to Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort, who regularly answers fan questions as part of his Man with a Hat Substack blog, to inquire about his, quote, policy on spoilers and covers, unquote. Quote, like, obviously, there's always going to be some element of that due to the nature of the covers being tell me what's in this issue, but in a page of art, on the smaller quote, but for instance, the next Exceptional X-Men cover fully spoils a very sinister reveal that probably would have been a huge and interesting surprise if not for the cover. They wrote, quote, like, what's the thought process um, with this kind of thing, unquote. Well, now that they've spoiled it, now we're gonna see how the fans may feel like they want to react to that. All right. So continuing on here. We continue on with this. So in turn, Bravewort admitted, quote, as a general rule, I try not to spoil stories on the covers. Callie, Callie, I guess that's who wrote him. But there are occasions, such as the one where I feel like the reveal is too strongly saleable not to feature in some way on the cover, unquote. Again, a huge gamble here, seemingly disregarding the entertainment of the book's readers for the chance to score a few extra books from unwary, in smaller quotes, cover shoppers, in parentheses, of which there are fewer and fewer for single issues every day, unparenthesed. He further posited, quote, so the exceptional X-Men cover doesn't really spoil anything unless you know the players involved. And if you do know, the fact that you can recognize what's going on may be more likely to compel you to pick the issue up. Unquote. So what he's banking on is that even though, so what he's apparently banking on is that the cover art may draw in new readers who don't know the story, and also if depending upon where the story goes from that point, if the current readers are into the story and into the plot, he's banking on knowing that that this is where it's going might spark them to buy the book, more likely buy the book. Quote, as I want to sell as many copies as I can, that's a clear-cut choice for me, unquote. He concluded, quote, and hopefully there's more to that story that simply one reveal, unquote. Again, though, he's banking on quite a bit here, and it's like pretty much, and it is pretty much a huge gamble here, because it depends again about on how invested your current fan base is already invested in the story. Is it something that they want? Is it something that they want to see happen? Is it something that intrigues them enough? Or is it something or is it something that they would probably be sour on because of what's going on, because maybe it's played out a little too many times. For those who wish to see if this mystery still has any element of intrigue after this, Exceptional X-Men Volume 1, Number 9 hit shelves on May 21st, 2025. All right, so there we go with that one. Friendly reminder, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, why don't we go ahead and get to the next story here. The second and probably last story of for tonight that we'll get to, which is a story regarding Dragon Ball Daima in particular. Going to get into the mindset of those who created Dragon Ball Daima a little bit, see what motivated them to come out with this book. Apparently, so let's get into this. Dragon Ball Boss reveals the idea behind Daima. Quote, was to create a new series similar to GT that parents could watch with their children. Now, here's another kind of article by Nerdigans Inc. published yesterday, the 25th. Now, here's another possible gamble right here, as again, GT had mixed reviews. There are some people who liked it. There were others who really didn't like the change in canon there. There are some out there who wouldn't consider GT canon, right, to the main Dragon Ball universe. It's kind of like a sidebar that some people would rather want to forget about that it ever existed. So, let's, and to say that, we decided to do this story in order to kind of maybe try to hopefully bring about it for fans or those who did like it and want to share it with their kids. Well, again, I guess we'll just wait and see how that all pans out for them. But let's get into the article here, see what it has to say. As we said, article by Nerdigans Inc. published yesterday, the 25th. All right, so if SSJ4 Goku becoming canon in the latest episode did not settle fan speculation on the late Akira Toriyama's final project, Super Saiyan 4, I believe. Dragon Ball Daima being their version of Toei Animation's anime original sequel, Dragon Ball GT, executive producer Akio Iyoku has confirmed the series' connection. Machine translated by DeepL, Dragon Ball executive producer and Tokyo Capsule Corporation Akio Iyoku revealed in a February 10th interview with Mountain Web, the foundation of Dragon Ball Daima, was the anime's target demographic. Quote, we aimed for viewers in their early 30s and older who grew up watching Dragon Ball GT and have children of their own, unquote. He acknowledged, quote, the idea was to create a new series similar to GT that parents could watch with their children, unquote. And yeah, I think Goku with purple hair right there. Similar to Toei Animation's motive, the Tokyo Capsule Corporation founder admitted that the reasoning behind turning Goku back into a kid was due to expanding the franchise's audience. Unlike GT, however, franchise creator Akira Toriyama decided this grand tour would be more than just Goku time by turning the entire main cast into kids. So that means you got not only mini Goku, but you got mini Vegeta, mini Piccolo. Who else possibly? I don't know. Anyways, mini Bulma, mini Trunks, mini Gohan, mini Goten. Let's see. Quote, the main objective for, in brackets, Dragon Ball Daima was to attract a wider audience, and although this is in hindsight, we recognize that Goku's smaller size widens the entry point into the franchise, unquote. He stated, quote, we did not expect everyone to be small, but of course that was, in brackets, Toriyama, unbracketed, Sensei's idea. GT means Grand Tour. We intended to depict an adventure in Daima as well, unquote. So you got right there mini Goku, mini Vegeta, and mini Piccolo right there. Let's see if anybody... All right. The Dragon Ball boss then elaborated on the difference between Goku's adventure in the Demon Realm in Dragon Ball Daima and the Saiyan's divine path to power in Dragon Ball Super. Quote, it will have a different flow and form from Super, where Goku steadily improves his strength. Even though Goku is small, the sight of him fighting by leaps and bounds using his Nioibo stick looks fresh, and it will show a different appeal from Super, unquote. Quote, we aim to make the anime enjoyable for children as well, but we did not make it childish, because we also wanted parents to want to watch the anime with their children, unquote. He added, quote, of course, we have to express the appeal of the characters and the story well. Unquote. Dragon Ball Daima concludes on February 28th with same-day simulcast on Crunchyroll. So that's just Friday. So they're concluding the Daima story this Friday. Let's see, 35. Let me go take a quick look around. See what else up there at least. Let's see now. And then really change there. All right. Do 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 do. Okay. I'm not saying anything right now because I'm just looking over some stuff here. Seeing what that might be. Well, we will have Indie Comic Showcase episode to go over tomorrow. Not much I can tell you. Let's see. 38 minutes. Let me check this one article here that I see here. Live in full color. The revival. I'll be green. Let's see. This one might. One we could probably get done in a few minutes here. All right, so I'm gonna go over another article here real quick. Let's see. And there's some history behind it, of course. All right, Love in Four Color: The Revival of Romance Comics. Article by Avi Green, published today. This will probably be the last article we go over. Then we'll get into the other stuff. Get into like the rest and wrap up and the this day in each history segments. Rob Sokovitz at Forbes says There are scholars and readers taking books anew at the romance genre in comics. Now, of course, you had more of those going on throughout the golden and early silver age than you do nowadays. But this is from the article he's quoting here from the from Forbes. The romance comics genre was founded by comics icon Jack Kirby, better known for Captain America and basically the entire Marvel Universe, with his then partner Joe Simon. Simon and Kirby had an unerring sense for what fans wanted from the medium and believed there was an untapped market among women who liked quote-unquote true confession and pulpy love stories. They were right. Now, I don't know if they were the ones, because there were romance comics coming out even before these two were heavily involved. So I don't know if and you did have quite a few comics with strong female leads as well. So the first issue of Young Romance Comics in 1947 sold so well that it inspired a host of imitators almost overnight in turning romance comics into a multi-million-dollar industry. In the 1940s and 50s, women of all ages read romance comics, unquote, says Sidney Hefler, a PhD candidate at the Ohio State University and part of a new wave of scholars exploring connections between comics, American culture, and gender. Now, mind you, too, the romance comics of those days were, obviously coming out after World War II, the whole baby boom generation, all that. So, yeah. Quote, there was a strong moral code in those comics, but you had women who tested behavior and limits. After the mid-50s censorship scare, romance comics became a lot less interesting and more sanitized. And in the late 60s, you had all these hilarious examples of the middle-aged men who wrote them trying to keep up with women's lib, unquote. Now, here's Avi's response to all that. Be that as it may, it's kind of surprising potential liberals would sound like they disapprove of a form of feminism, considering how they certainly used to go out their way to uphold it until the transsexuality cult apparently was considered far more worthy in their point of view and feminism expendable. One might also consider how the quote-unquote young adult genre also makes a big deal out of LGBT things. That's modern day, mind you. And in the past decade, was plagued by alarming amounts of PC storytelling. In any case, comics included, to the point where you could almost wonder what the whole point was of writing books to start with. And then Avi is asking here now, how did romance comics slowly make a comeback years later? Let's see, according to the article he's referencing here, one creator who saw potential in the genre was John Lustig, who began a strip called Last Kiss In 1996, it added contemporary captions and dialogue to vintage romance comic panels, often giving the female character more agency and libido than the originals ever contemplated. Quote, there's some lovely artwork in those old strips, and they are the only genre that really focused on women, so I could get into what the women are really thinking, unquote, he says. Probably what we were seeing just a moment ago, right? I'm talking about putting in new captions and all that. New story, basically, of an already printed story. Quote, those images became such a trope because they are so dramatic, but in this bland, safe way, I'm playing against that image in a lot of ways, unquote. Clearly, the concept has appeal, as Lustig has maintained Last Kiss in digital format, merchandise, and occasionally in print for nearly 30 years. Fast forward to today, where a generation of creators raised on well-crafted josei, in quotes here, or in parentheses, manga for adult women, and more sophisticated romance and romance-adjacent prose fiction, have reinvented the genre for a predominantly female audience of readers who consume comics on mobile devices. The growth of platforms like Webtoon and Tapas in North America have given creators ways to connect directly to readers hungry for romance-oriented work compared to the traditional publishers aiming for a more male-dominated superhero and action genres. So now here's Avi responding to that. On that note, they may want to consider that whatever one thinks of superhero themes, Marvel and DC ostensibly tried to write their comics as geared for women in the past decade, and in the end had no success because they were draining the action themes for the sake of poorly written drama that didn't appeal to anybody. And even that was sabotaged by alarming amounts of wokeness. If they were serious, they would have produced self-contained romance tales not connected to their superhero universe proper. They would have limited themselves to the woke directions they took. Now, mind you, that first point he made right there, basically making the romance comics separate from the superhero genre, back in the golden age, that's exactly what they did. The romance books were not necessarily connected to the superhero line. Now, granted, there were aspects in the superhero line that did incorporate romance into them, but it wasn't like a huge, like you did have, like, of course, in DC you had Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor, you had some stuff going on there, Bruce Wayne, Batman having his multiple, romances and all that, Superman and Lois Lane, Peter Parker and Mary Jane, all that. So let's see where. Even earlier, one of the worst examples of Marvel's phony attempts at rebroadening focuses was a miniseries titled Trouble, which dealt with teen pregnancy, written by Mark Millar, and what rubbed people the wrong was that I guess they forgot to put in the word wrong way, was that the story implied Peter Parker's family were the protagonists, hinting this was more an effort to produce cheap sensationalism. It was overseen by none other than Joe Quesada and Bill Jemus, and wasn't successful for a good reason. One of the saddest results of the miniseries was that Terry and Rachel Dobson's artwork was wasted on this botch. It goes without saying that the story wasn't standalone. That pretty much sunk it. It's good that in the years since, there have been certain efforts made at producing new romance comics, and I recall Top Cow Image did at least a few in the past decade. And if USA Canadian creators wanted to, I'm sure they could even develop dramas about food, sports, and fishing like the Japanese have. And even comics within comics, recalling there's anime productions where manga is referenced in the screenplays, which I see as making for an amusing in-joke. Well, here's the thing too about that too. Yeah, I know of a couple of anime / manga that that basically had kind of the otaku world on display. You had of course Genshinken is one, and there's another one I think it's called Comic Market or something like that. Comic Market. Where the whole anime, in Genshinken, it's basically about a collegiate like anime manga club. Basically, they call themselves a media club or whatever, visual media club. While the Comic Market is basically following manga artists who are basically going to like conventions and all that, trying and manga conventions, all that, trying to you see them constantly in the dealer holes, trying to sell their products. So anyway, let's see. The simple point is that if any creators wanted to, they could do much of this stuff without tampering with established corporate-owned franchises and turn out crowd pleasers for real. That's what has to be the way going forward. I wouldn't recommend buying comics like these from creators who were involved in destroying what made Marvel DC work years ago. Though, if only because if they haven't apologized for playing a part in destroying Kirby Lee's best items, then there's little point in rewarding them when they ostensibly produce their own work. Only those who develop their own stories without participating in destructive directions are worth buying from, in my opinion. Come to think of it, the creators who are more worth buying romance and drama comics from are also those who don't take the kind of paths Garth Ennis has over the years, and like him, at least showed some respect for adventure and sci-fi fandom's validity. That way, some improvement might one day be achieved. All right. So there we go with that one. So now, of course, what we're going to do, we're going to head right into the wrestling wrap up. We're going to look back to last night's NXT. So, as on last night's NXT, let's see. On last night's NXT, coming from the Andrew J. Bradley Music Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, You saw Stephanie Vaquer defend the NXT Women's North American Championship over Carmen Petrovic and successfully retain that title. Moose defended the defended and retained the X Division TNA X Division title over Heritage Cup champion Lexis King. In a non-title match, the Hardy Boys defeated Jeff and Matt Hardy. The Hardy Boys defeated No Quarter Cat Crew of Miles Bourne and Tevian Heights. And it's also been reported that the WWE may very well be interested in bringing Hardy's back, not only to NXT, but also to the main roster. There's been some talk, too, about possibly trying to induct him into this year's Hall of Fame. That's all speculation right now. A lot of people are waiting to see how. Lola Vice defeated Ariana Grace in a one-on-one match. And then in a tag match, in his first match since signing with NXT, Ricky Saints, formerly known as Ricky Starks in AEW, teamed with Javon Evans to defeat Ethan Page and Wes Lee. So that all happened on last night's NXT. And now we'll look ahead to what's going to go down on tonight's Dynamite, which is coming from the Front Wave Arena in Oceanside, California. The matches include Aaron Solo taking on Hangman Adam Page in a singles match. Will Ospreay takes on the Learning Tree's Ryan Keith in a match that is set in hopes of trying to get a AEW World Tag Title matchup. The Murder Machines of Lance Archer and Brian Cage take on the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum. In a six-man tag match, Daniel Garcia, the TBS champion, Daniel Garcia teams with former AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, take on the Undisputed Kingdom of Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. Deonna Purrazzo with Taya Valkyrie in her corner takes on Harley Cameron in a singles match. And in the main event, with the winner going on to Revolution to face Kenny Omega, Konosuke Takeshita defends the international title tonight against Orange Cassidy. So that's all that's going on tonight. I'll have more on that for tomorrow, of course. Now, with all that being said and done, why don't we wrap things up by taking a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Today being Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! 85, 65, 75. And 2002. All right. So the first couple of history things I'm going to do is have a couple of birthday wishes to go out. First off, happy 60th birthday to wrestling manager James Mitchell. James Mitchell, of course, is currently leading the Miserably Faithful in the NWA, in the National Wrestling Alliance right now. Many people might remember James Mitchell from his time in WCW as James Vandenberg, his time in ECW as Sinister Minister, and also his time as Father James Mitchell or Reverend James Mitchell in Total Nonstop Action. So, happy 60th birthday to... It's kind of hard to believe he's that young. So, I mean, it is kind of hard to believe that, but yeah, he is like 60 years old. He's still going strong, in terms of managing. I mean, as I said, he's currently managing in the NWA right now, managing the group known as Miserably Faithful. So, and still kind of doing that whole darkness gimmick too. Aside from him, there's another person celebrating a birthday today. Pull that up here in a moment, as I'm going to wish a happy 50th birthday to Simpsons animator and director Matthew Faughman. Happy 50th birthday to Matthew Faughman, who, of course, animated and directed some Simpsons, like 24 Simpsons episodes, seasons 18 through 21, I believe. So happy 50th birthday to Matthew Faughman, right there, or Faughman. Moving now on to 1985, on this date 40 years ago today. On this date 40 years ago today. On this date 40 years ago today. The 335th issue of Archie went on sale on this date back in 1985. Sold for 65 cents for 32 pages. You had such stories as At a Disadvantage, The Shortcut, There's War, and There's War, and Kate Unable. All right, so there you go. The 335th issue of... And finally, also on this date back in 2002, which was 23 years ago today, on this date in 2002, J.C. Staff's UFO Baby came to an end on this date back in 2002. So 22 years ago today, J.C. Staff's UFO Baby came to an end on this date back in 2002. With that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow we will be looking at the Indie Comic Showcase from Bleeding Fool. Looking at what some of the latest stuff coming out there is. Also, of course, don't forget this Sunday, RJ Carter from Critical Blast will be joining me as we'll be starting our coverage of May of comics that went on sale in May of 1940. Be looking at DC. There'll be, of course, some of the comics we'll be briefly looking over. We'll include, of course, the first issue of All-Star Comics. We'll be talking a little bit about that. The 5th issue of Superman. The 40th issue of Detective Comics, and we'll have a number of introductions for everybody. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here, and hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.